whiskey being added to the collection. There's more whiskey coming in, and it's a good thing. It's a good problem to have. But I've also found myself in a place where like I need to invite people over and like start cracking some of the stuff and just sharing it with friends and family because it's getting out of hand. So here's another whiskey haul for I would say the past week. I just shot one of these and I just put one of these out, and I've already gotten to a place where I already need to make another one of these videos. Yeah, it's a thing. Thankfully, a lot of these have actually been sent to me from a few different distilleries to try, so that's always good. That's always helpful. But either way, still bottles being added to my collection for one reason or another, but let's get into it. All right, the first one up is the Southern Bourbon from 13th Colony. This actually is pretty cool. So I actually got a message from 13th Colony recently that mentioned that I guess somebody showed up to their distillery and actually asked them if they've ever partnered with or sent me anything or like worked with me at all in any capacity. And I put out a video about them before, but it was a while ago, I guess. Didn't really work with them. It was just me as a consumer, just and an enthusiast, just kind of looking at their products and trying to learn more about them. But anyway, they reached out to me and asked if they could send me a bottle of the bourbon. The coolest part about that is not even the whiskey. The coolest part about that is that there's literally people, whether you're subscribed to this channel or whether you're following me on Instagram, there's people that went to the distillery and asked them to partner with me or work with me. And I guess there was enough people that said that they actually reached out to me. So that to me is one of the coolest things in this whole whiskey world. You know, a lot of people do this to get free stuff or they want to promote all this stuff. Like, I have enough whiskey. That's not really the point of it. The point of it is to, I initially thought was to try different things, right? And see what I liked and what I didn't like. And then I thought that the point was kind of like, once I learned that, to kind of bring that to an audience and to my viewers and all that stuff and subscribers and see like, well, if I like this, maybe you'll like this. If you like that, this is what this is intended for. Like, all those types of things. The more that I get into this whole whiskey game, the more that I realize it is nothing about that. It has everything to do with the relationships and the people you meet along the way. And that is the part that is the most meaningful. That is the part that's the most impactful. And that's honestly the part that is the most fulfilling. So whoever you are, if you're watching this video and you're one of the ones that reached out to 13th Colony on my behalf, I guess, thank you so much. That means the world to me. I appreciate it. And thank you, 13th Colony, for sending me this bottle so I can try your products and see if I buy into the hype that is the 13th Colony brand. Speaking of products being sent, let's just keep rolling with it. These two samples came from Boulder Spirits. Now, Boulder is actually a brand that I've been really excited to try. They made it onto one of Fred Minnick's lists last year, so I think ever since then, people have just been, you know, understandably so, looking for these bottles. If they have high praises from Fred, I'm sure that, you know, the general public is going to be interested in that bottle. Me being in Indiana, I can't actually get any of their products. For me to try something that I can't really get around here is great. That's always fantastic. It also helps me when people ask me, like, have you heard of them or have you tried their stuff? I can actually say yes, I've tried their stuff. So they sent me a cask strength version of their bourbon. And then they also sent me another sample of their Leave No Trace product, which I believe is the American single malt from Boulder Spirits. My brother-in-law actually lives out in Denver, so I'm always like, hey, be on the lookout. And when I do go visit him, hopefully I'll be able to find a bottle and bring some of this stuff back. Sometimes even when I make content, I try to just focus on bottles that hopefully people can find because, I don't know, it's like, what good does it do to explain how good a whiskey is if you can't even try it? Thank you, Boulder Spirits, for sending these samples, and hopefully I'll get into them soon. All right, another sample that was sent to me from Redwood Empire is their rye whiskey Van Duzen. Am I saying that right? I don't think it's Van Duzen. Redwood Empire I've been a fan of since I first had their stuff. They sent me a bottle a few years ago called Lost Monarch. And the funny thing about that is from that point on, I think I've been a fan of theirs. So Lost Monarch was their bourbon rye blend, their Boo Rye, as some people call it. Trying that bottle actually enabled me, again, to try their stuff and to see what it was about. And so before it ever got to Indiana, I actually had a bottle and I was able to recommend this to people. And then once it got to Indiana, I like flew out to go get some of their stuff. Again, very grateful to be able to have the opportunity to try some of this stuff and to share my experiences. I really liked it. I know a lot of people that did. There's some people that didn't necessarily like that particular product, the Lost Monarch. Some people actually really liked their rye. So there's a lot going on within Redwood Empire. This Van Duzen, I guess, is one that I'm interested to learn more about and to try itself. To me, the most interesting part of this is the mash bill. So 67% rye, 31% malted barley, and 2% wheat. That's a very different type of rye whiskey mash bill. I'm interested to see, does this take on more of like a profile of like single malt with all that barley in it? And on top of that, is this going to be a bottle that maybe helps people transition into American single malts? You have the high rye bourbons that people kind of enjoy, that kind of get you close to a straight rye. You have the barely legal ryes that are such high corn that Sometimes you can't even taste the difference between that and a bourbon. So I'm wondering if this is one of those things that just because of the mash bill, if it helps cross those categories, such a high barley content, maybe this helps us get into more of a transitional type of whiskey into an American single malt, which I myself am even trying to get into. So if there's any American single malts I need to check out, let me know in the comments. Another bottle added to the bar and added to the collection is Blanton's. Came across this bottle, and I know that this is a very polarizing bottle. People that are new to whiskey maybe only know Blanton's, and then people that are diehard enthusiasts are thinking I'm crazy for even having a bottle, and they think it's overrated and they hate everything about life. But to me, Blanton's at the suggested retail price, I never have an issue with it. I do think it's a good enough whiskey at that price point, especially with the fact that prices are just going through the roof for bourbon nowadays. But for me, I've enjoyed Blanton's enough, and I have other bottles that I actually go to. I don't really do it for myself. I actually like to have these bottles so that when people come over, I can actually pour some of that and then pour something else and let them start to determine what they like. And a lot of the times people will tell me like, oh, I actually like this better than the Blantons. And sometimes they look confused because they feel like they're not supposed to like that better than the Blantons. But obviously that's what I'm trying to get them to realize, that there's plenty of products just sitting on the shelf that maybe don't have that popularity that are still very, very good products. Another reason why I get these every time I see them at retail is for gift purposes. With the holidays coming up, there's plenty of people that I'm looking for gifts for. And when you're tired of the bourbon guy, sometimes they expect whiskey. Any chance I get to get one of these and to be able to give them as a gift, whether it's for weddings or holidays, whatever it is, I just grab them just in case. Last but not least, Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend, the one that started the trend of cigar blends. So I had this way back when. And I have not had any of the more recent batches, but I've heard so many people say that it's not as good and, you know, all these things, which I think we love to build this up in our mind of how good something was back when we had it originally. But the one thing I had to kind of account for when I first tried a cigar blend, I thought it was going to be like tobacco notes and all that stuff. I thought that was what it was trying to tell me. And then once I had a sip of it, I realized that no, like these flavors are just very bold flavors, and there's just a lot going on here to be able to balance out the experience of smoking a cigar along with your bourbon and having something that actually complements that pairing. And obviously since then, there's all types of cigar batches and cigar blends that have come out, just like anything else we ever do in whiskey. If one person does it well, then we're going to see a lot of it. But I've always been curious if the more recent batches truly have fallen off or if they are still really good products and people are just maybe not happy at the price points or whatever. But I've seen a lot of these lately in my area, and I'm actually surprised at the amount that I've seen. Maybe their production has increased to where they're able to get more out. I don't know if it's just maybe in my area that I'm starting to see a lot of these, but I passed on it a lot in in the past few weeks. And then I finally saw it at a decent enough price that I thought I can't pass on it anymore. I need to get a newer batch and just see, is there a difference between these two, at least from what I remember of that bottle and the new batch. So nothing too crazy. Got some samples sent to me to try, got some bottles on my own, maybe some to give away, but I'm excited to have more whiskey to try. That's what it's all about. And I've already started on the reviews from the last whiskey haul I did. Like I said before, I have a lot of whiskey I got to get to, trying to keep up with the reviews as best as I can, but it's a lot. Thank you all for tuning into this video. Thank you so much for all of the support. And again, thank you to whoever is out there talking to distilleries on my behalf. It means the world to me. You all will never know how much I appreciate that support. Helps me to keep going. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.